Thank you for joining me today for episode 75 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Toni Williams. Toni is the director of operations at the Kent, which is Memphis's newest event venue located downtown in the historic Snuff District. She went to Raleigh Egypt High School and to the University of Memphis. She's here today during Breast Cancer Awareness Month because she is a longtime survivor and is going to share her story. Thanks for joining me today, Toni.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
I am actually from home of the throwed rolls. I was born in Sikeston, Missouri, not just like 2.5 hours from Memphis.
Is that in the Boot Heel?
It is in the Boot Heel. It's close to Cape Girardeau, which most people have heard of that one. Sikeston is just absolutely known for Lambert's Cafe, which is home of the throwed rolls.
Yes, I haven't been to Lambert's there. I think, where was it? Alabama?
There's one in Gulf Shores. I think has one as well.
Yeah, years ago I was there. That was fun.
Yeah, we used to go to Lambert's on Friday nights when it was just a small little cafe, just a tiny little place, and now it's a huge place now.
So how did a girl from Sikeston, Missouri end up in Memphis?
So my aunt and uncle and my stepfather worked for, my aunt and uncle worked for what was then Malone and Hyde. Pitt Hyde's, he did kind of like a U.S. Foods grocery supply, and they moved to Memphis, and then we kind of followed them. My stepfather worked for AutoZone, also here in Memphis.
Awesome. How long did he work for AutoZone?
I am not sure. For quite a while. It was a long time. He's since passed away, and he actually, I'm going to say maybe 13, 15 years, maybe. I'm not real sure.
What are some of your better memories of school at Raleigh Egypt?
I was quite the wallflower at Raleigh Egypt. I just head down, got the best grades that I possibly could. I have a lifelong best friend who, when we first moved to Memphis, we actually lived in Hickory Hill, and I went to Wooddale Junior High. And on my first day there, we came in the middle of the year. So I came in May or March, and met my best friend, and she's still my best friend for life right now. And we moved one summer to Raleigh, and just so happened that summer her family also moved to Raleigh. So we knew someone connected together at Raleigh. And I mean, we got into all kinds of trouble. We were just, normal teenagers doing our normal thing. Nothing dangerous, but we like to pull a prank and do some things.
Yeah, back in the day, I mean, we snuck out of the house at night through the windows. We went rolling. We did, sort of goofy stuff that you don't see much of today.
You don't. And I was always afraid of my mom and sneaking out of the house. So I would get permission to go out of the house. I just wouldn't come home when I was supposed to. So I broke the curfew more than sneaking out of the house.
It's funny. I think I did the opposite. I came home at curfew and then snuck back out.
Yeah, I was afraid of getting caught.
Yeah, and I was afraid of my dad at that time too. How would your parents describe their daughter Toni as a teenager?
I think they would say that I was well behaved, definitely mischievous. My mom and my dad divorced when I was 6 years old. My mom remarried. My father also remarried, but I lived with my mom and my stepdad. And I really didn't get into a lot of trouble. I had one incident where I got into just a ton of trouble, and I just decided I wasn't going to come home. I was going to hang out with my friends, and my mother and every adult in the neighborhood and anyone she could think of was out looking for me, not for 30 minutes or so, but for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. And it was enough that I remember very well that night. Yes, I got into a lot of trouble that day.
Now, I remember one instance. I went to Ridgeway, and Mr. White was our vice principal. We had Mr. White, who was black, and Mr. Black, who was white. It was pretty funny. But Mr. White, I got called to his office once. It was in 7th grade. I was in band class, and I remember I blew the oboe rim, that goes on the elbow.
Yeah.
And I blew it when the teacher, Mr. Ragsdale, I remember everything, said, "Don't make any more noise." He sent me to the office, and I was, sort of threatened in a funny way, because obviously that wasn't a huge big deal with the paddle. And I never got in trouble again because of that, because I was scared to get in trouble of what my
Right.
parents would do.
I skipped class to go to McDonald's for lunch. We did those kinds of things, but nothing like kids do these days.
Right.
We were just mischievous.
So I mentioned that you went to school at the University of Memphis. What did you do when you got out of college?
I actually got married and pregnant very young. I had my first child, Dane, who when I was 19 years old, and I went to work part-time after having Dane for my mother. My mother was the parts manager for a Toro distributorship here in Memphis, and she worked with golf courses and things like that for parts for their mowers and such. And I worked for her part-time over spring break one time. She had an employee that quit or got fired or something, and she was in a jam, and I was on spring break and really nothing to do. So I went in and helped her, and it ended up, I didn't leave there after that. I worked my way through working with her, and then became the receptionist and an admin to their vice president, and worked through that. But I pretty much have just worked all my life.
You said, quote, "What seems like a million years ago, I began my job at Spring Creek Ranch. Through the 14 years there, I met so many wonderful couples and created some pretty amazing events. The time has now come for me to move on. I've taken on the new role of director of operations for Memphis's newest downtown venue, the Kent. We are currently under construction and will be open in January 2022 to start making dreams come true," unquote. What did you learn most about yourself while working at Spring Creek Ranch, and what led you to the decision to make this big change?
Well, I learned that I can do hard things. I can work crazy hours. I can deal with crazy people, and still enjoy myself. Not that you didn't have bad days, but you do. Anything you do, you have bad days. But I loved my time at Spring Creek Ranch. Working for the Meyer family was one of my favorite things. They are the sweetest family ever, and they would do anything for their employees, which they called family members. So I loved working there. And I left because the space where I was doing my weddings and events was being torn down. Dr. Meyer, who owned the space, passed away a couple years before I left, and his family had no desire to keep the golf course, so they sold it. And then that part where my building was being sold for houses. They're building houses on it. So they were not going to continue to do events outside of their membership. I had 1,000,001 hats at Spring Creek Ranch. I did everything from HR to serving to running in front of the house, back of the house, whatever it took. I'm one of those people that jump in. I walk into a place and I see something happening that they need help, I jump in. That's just the way I am. And I still had a job at Spring Creek Ranch without moving. I just wouldn't have events, and events are where my passion lies. I love to make a bride's day. I love for a corporate company to come in and sit down and go, this is an amazing space to just a retreat for our employees to get away from their four walls and into these beautiful four walls. It's in my blood. It's an adrenaline, and I can't stop it.
That's a good thing. Absolutely. That's awesome. What is your morning routine like?
My dog usually wakes me up very early, and we go for a little walk down Riverside. It's for him to do his business, come back in, feed him, shower. Always have to get coffee in the morning. I have a couple of, I got a nice Nespresso for Christmas last year, and I absolutely love it. When I remember to buy the creamer to go with it, when I buy whatever, it's just easier to stop. I go to Vice and Virtue downtown, or Starbucks. Those are my two places. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Stop in there, come in the morning and just start working on email, hit email first, anything that has to be done there, and just kind of start my day. I am a paper and pen planner person. I'm not big on having my calendar on my phone. So I pull out the big binder and figure out what I'm doing for the day.
I do both. I do both the calendar, I have a big book, the daily planner, and I do it online because to me, I just like to have it in both places because, it just makes me feel better to have it written down.
If I have two places that I have to keep it, I get scared that I've left it off of one that I'm counting on. So I just have one.
Yeah. And
the worst thing to do is overbook to a wedding, to double book a wedding.
I can't even imagine that happening.
So that's scary. I've done it one time, and thankfully the bride called and said, that's not the date I want. And I'm like, oh, praise God.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Those 5 a.m. wake up calls by your doggy, they probably, sometimes that's too early, isn't it?
Sometimes it is. Sometimes I beat him up. This morning I beat him up, and he's a Boston Terrier, and he absolutely hates cold weather. So when he feels that it's a little chillier in the house and he's going to have to go outside in the chill, he tends to bury himself under covers more.
Now, I believe that the Kent is about 139 years old. Is that right?
It is. It was built in 1883.
That's pretty amazing. I've seen a lot of pictures, and I know you're there right now in the background. It's just gorgeous. If you would tell the audience about the place and what are some of the things that make it so special? So
it was built in 1883. It was originally built, Global Cottonseed was here. It was a cotton plant that took the oil out of cottonseed. It eventually became Tri-State Iron and Steel Works, which is where you see all the iron. There's lots of iron and steel in beams everywhere. We even have some pieces of equipment that they used at Tri-State. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Tri-State is still around. I'm just not sure. I think they're by the airport or something. But my ownership group, led by Billy and Benjamin Orgel and Adam Slovis, purchased it with other buildings in the neighborhood called the Snuff District. Varsity Spirits just moved in here in July, and then we've got some apartments that'll be opening by the end of the year. And then we'll build some more apartments and parking, some retail space and everything over the next few years. When they were doing this building, I came down to look at the space before I took the job. And I remember getting here and going, oh, it's not so bad. And then walking in and going, what am I doing? Got in my car after looking at that. It was beautiful, but it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh dear God, this is never going to be what we think it's going to be. But they are amazing. Lincoln's Construction worked with them, with our construction people, and they did an amazing job. They basically had to build the building from the inside out to keep everything. It is on the historic registry, so they did have to keep a certain percentage of it. But it is an amazing space. I mean, when you see it from the outside, you're like, oh, okay. And then you walk in, you're like, oh, I wasn't really expecting this. It's much larger than I expected, tall ceilings. It's just gorgeous.
I had no idea that it was Billy Orgel and Adam Slovis. I grew up with them. It was a real funny story about Billy. Back in the late 80s, I believe it was him and his father had a company called Communication Services. It was out on Getwell, off the highway, off of 240. And it was like in a big sort of steel warehouse. And my first beeper and my dad's first beeper, and I think my dad's first, handheld cell phone, the ones that you saw like on the Zach carried on Saved by the Bell, right. The big one, got, from Billy. And I had a Chevy Impala. It was a hunk of junk, but it was a car. I remember complaining about it to my dad, and my dad, like, you're lucky you have a car, so just shush. So I got a cell phone, a car phone that connected to the car with the antenna on the car from Billy.
Right.
The first month, the bill was like, I thought it was like the car phone was worth more than the car. The bill was $700 the first month. My dad ripped it out, of course, because I couldn't afford to pay it. But that was from Billy Orgel. And I know Adam too, and I grew up with Adam's cousin, Brian Manis. We were great friends growing up. So
Brian actually helped us with all of our branding when we opened up the Kent. He helped us with our logo and just kind of a little bit of everything. So We're very familiar with Brian. They're Jay Lindy, Michael McLaughlin, Tom Marsh, and I know I'm leaving someone out, but there's an ownership group that owns here. I work closer with Adam than any of them, but Billy will text me weekly just asking how I'm doing. And Benjamin, they're great people.
Yeah, they are. And, and Brian actually did my branding and logo when I had my mattress store, Sleepy Z's, out in Bartlett for several years. He helped me with my website, did videos for me, and just did a great job. And he always took really good care of me. So all those people were really good people. So that you're very fortunate to work with those kind of people.
Absolutely. I love it. This is my dream. I'm living my dream of being somewhere, working for someone as kind as they are, and just, they don't really micromanage. They just, hey, just keep bringing money in and we'll see you on Friday or whatever. We love, and I've had some issues over the last few weeks, and there has not been a day go by that one of them hasn't texted me and said, okay, how's everything going? What's going on? So it's been amazing.
And the Kent was nominated this past year for Memphis Most Best Wedding Venue. Its first year. That's pretty exciting. That had to make you guys feel really good.
Yes, that makes us feel great. I did that one time when I was at Spring Creek Ranch in 14 years. So it was nice that I was able to do it my first year here.
Awesome. Quote, note, when I am helping you to try to do something for you, please at the least get my name right. I have sent you 20,000 emails and texts and have signed every single one of them with my name. Quit calling me Tammy, unquote. Tell us about that conversation, and did the person ever end up correcting themselves?
Well, I just got a text from him yesterday. He does not call me Tammy any longer, but he calls me Toni with a Y. So he still hasn't gotten it, but it was very frustrating because I always answer my phone. This is Toni. Always, and a lot of people call me Penny. It's the way I say it, or just the the phone or whatever. Sure. I get called Penny a lot. My sister's name is Tanya, so I grew up being called Tanya. So but it just frustrates me. I mean, I spoke with that man at least 5 times a week, and he could not get. And I corrected him several times.
Oh wow!
And he still called me Tammy.
Frustrating.
But now he's got the right name. He just doesn't know how to spell it.
Well, he's getting there.
He's getting there. Yes,
he's getting there.
I like to think that now it's Siri's fault. I'm hoping that he's talking into his phone, and it's Siri's fault.
That's good. That's a positive way of looking at it.
Exactly.
Sure. So Toni, let's talk about your breast cancer. When were you first diagnosed, and what stage were you diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed in October of 2001 with a stage 1 close to 2. We called it stage 1. I actually found the lump myself, went to the doctor, and she said, let's check it out. You're pretty young. You don't have a history. Let's do an ultrasound and everything. Did an ultrasound, went through different testing, biopsy and everything, determined that it was cancer. I had my surgery in November of 2001. Had a lumpectomy, and then they removed the lymph nodes on my left side as well. And went through roughly a year of chemo, radiation, just different treatments. Not super harsh because it was stage 1. And did that for about 8 or 9 months. And then in October of 2022 or 2002, I was told that I was cancer free. So I just the 14th of this month celebrated my 20-year cancer free.
Awesome. What was your biggest self-discovery or revelation after you were diagnosed?
I tend, and I'm better at it now, but at the time I was young. I was young when it happened, and I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids, and telling my kids was hard. That trying to explain to them what it was, what was happening, and that I'm not going to die. We're going to be fine. We're going to have a little rough patch, but mom's here. But after going through that, I don't sweat small stuff much anymore. If you can't make it, you can't make it, or if you can't do it, you can't do it. Did things disappoint me? Absolutely. but it's not things that I get worked up over anymore, where I used to get really worked up over it.
What was the most difficult, part of your journey, and how were you able to overcome it?
Probably the most difficult part was trying to keep things normal for my kids. Um, I am very close to both my son and my daughter. They are my life, and they trying to keep things normal for them to still go to the basketball games, to still go to, make sure you got to dance. Thankfully, I had a village that would pick my daughter up and take her to dance. She's a competitive dancer and would take her to dance every day and do what she needed to do. Dane, my son, he probably took on more responsibility than he should have had to at that age, but just keeping things normal for them, as normal as possible.
And they were teenagers at the time, weren't they?
They were. Dane was, Dane was a freshman in high school, I believe. So Haley was in middle school.
Did they understand the scope of what really was going on?
I feel like they did. I didn't give them the good, bad, and ugly. They got the good and the bad semi. When I couldn't go to something because I had to do an infusion that day or whatever, we didn't, it wasn't like I can't do that today or whatever. I tried my best to keep things going. No matter how I felt, I wanted to make sure that we were still doing the things that we had always done together.
And you just referred to this, but I want to read this because I think I like it. On October 14th, 2021, you said this, quote, "Today is my 19-year cancer-free anniversary. It's hard to believe that had I not had early detection and treatment, that I would not have all the happiness in this photo. They are my world and they are my why," unquote. And the picture that you're talking about, which, we don't have here today, of course, is with you and your family and all smiles. It's just so wonderful. So now, a little over a year later, you just referred to these 20-year cancer-free anniversary. I can't even imagine how thankful and blessed you feel that you are.
Oh, absolutely. So blessed. I have three of the best grandchildren. I have two granddaughters, Georgia Kate. If I don't mention them, they'll tell me. Georgia Kate is 6 and a first grader at Cairo Elementary. Scarlett Marie, sorry, she is in the stage where she wants her name to be Scarlett Marie, is 3. And then I have a new grandbaby that was born on October 6th, Oliver, to my daughter. So I now have 2 girls and a boy. So, and they are my world. It doesn't take much for them to get anything from Nana. Nana will give them whatever they ask for.
Absolutely. And, it's funny, as I remember saying to my mom once, because my sister has 2 kids, and I was like, you just dote on them and you just like hug them and kiss them and everything. And then finally someone said to me, yeah, it's just different. Your kids, you do that, but with your grandkids, sometimes you go a little bit extra in that spoiling mode and everything.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see from the pictures how wonderful the family is. And so I definitely know how wonderful and blessed you are. What advice would you give someone on how to best, support a loved one, that's going through breast cancer?
Be there, but don't smother. It is okay to say, hey, let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. But if they say no, it's not that they don't want you to do it. It's that they need to do it. I am that way. I don't want to put anyone out. So I will, no matter what the situation is, I will try to do it myself if I can. You want to make sure that you're there for the good times and the bad times. There's lots of bad times, right, but you just want to make sure that you're not judging when they have those bad times and you're not interfering with what they need to do. You're not paralyzed. You're not, you have use of limbs or whatever. So let them do that. If I say I have to make dinner, then I'm making dinner and you're going to eat dinner. It's just don't. And a lot of people do try to do that. They think they're helping when actually for that person who does have cancer, their mental state, they have to do it just to say that they're, so that they know that they're not, it's not that they're not capable of doing it.
Sure. That makes complete sense. I totally understand that. I take it that you probably had a good support system around you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had a great church family at the time. Um, all of my daughter's dance moms, my mother was here, my sister was here, my father came and stayed with me. So we had an amazing support system.
That's great. In June of 2021, you and Windsor left Collierville, headed downtown to your new home, which you've talked about. And a few months later, on August 11th, you said, quote, "If you've been around here very long, you know that August is a busy birthday month for the Williams house. Today, we celebrate my favorite four-legged baby. Happy third birthday, Windsor. You make me laugh and scream at you every single day," unquote. Tell us a little bit more about your fur child.
Oh, Windsor. So he's now 4 years old, Boston Terrier. I had a Boston Terrier before Windsor named Ozzy, and he was the best. And Windsor he's a little old man. He really is. He has his routine. We get up in the morning. He knows all I have to do is say, "Mommy's got to go to work." He goes straight to his kennel, spends his day in his kennel. I get home. He's just as happy to see me. We go for another walk, feed him, go for a little walk just before bedtime. But it's funny. We make fun of him. We say, when he hears Wheel of Fortune come on, he looks at me like, "It's time to go to bed, Mom." And he slowly but surely creeps his bedtime. We started out at like 10 o'clock. Okay, when it's time to go to bed. And he's slowly but surely creeping it back. He's just a little old man, a creature of habit.
I've had dogs my whole life. I have 3 miniature schnauzers now, and I talk about them a lot. I post pictures of them a lot. They're my world, the unconditional love. I mean, you can leave your house for 15 minutes and you come back home and, oh my God, they're so happy to see you. It's just great.
It is. He's always happy to see me. Even no matter how many times I yelled at him that morning, he's still happy to see me that afternoon. So it's great.
Absolutely. So you talked about them, Georgia Kate, Scarlett Marie, your first two grandchildren. Promise I won't leave out Oliver. I want to read a few different things you've said about the girls. Quote, "It's this little one's 6th birthday. Happy birthday to Nana's OG. Georgia Kate is hilarious like her daddy and loving and kind like her mommy. She's truly the sweetest 6-year-old you will ever meet. Happy birthday, Georgia Kate. Nana loves you so very much," unquote. And you also said, quote, "This sweet baby turns 3 today. Scarlett Marie, you're the sweetest, most independent 3-year-old, and you make being a Nana the very best thing ever. Happy birthday, sweet baby." You've shared so many wonderful moments with them in their short lives. Are there a few that stick out for you the most?
Every time I'm with them, it's different. Georgia Kate, she is so hilarious. She loves to tell jokes, even if nobody gets them or if she totally messes them up. She's just hilarious. She is just like her father. And just she's so kind. She last year she actually got the kindness award in kindergarten at her school.
Nice.
And she's just a kind-hearted, just a very soft-hearted person. Scarlett, I love Scarlett to death. She is so independent and stubborn though. She, if you say black, it's white. Right now, she's going through a phase where she doesn't want to wear pants. She just wants to wear a dress and that's it, not wearing pants. It's getting colder. We have to wear pants. I don't want to wear pants. So now she will wear pants, but only if they're black. So she's 3. But so it's teenage years are going to be really fun for Dane. But they are just those kids, those girls. They love to have sleepover at Nana's. When they do sleepovers with Nana, we ride the trolley, we see the Peabody, we go and get cupcakes. We become tourists when we're downtown. They love it.
Awesome. Oliver McCoy McIntyre was born, talked about just 2 weeks ago. You said, quote, "He's here. Get ready for Oliver overload. Our sweet baby boy came into this world 4 weeks early, and I have a feeling he's going to keep us on our toes for a very long time," unquote. First off, how's his health, and what have the first 2 weeks of his world been like for you?
His health is amazing. He had to stay in the hospital for a few days extra in the NICU, but he came home with at a week and 1 day. He is tiny. It's so funny. Through my daughter's entire pregnancy, they told her she was going to have a big baby. He was measuring big. And even the day that she went into the hospital, they said he's measuring about 7'5". And he came out at 6'5", and he's tiny. He eats, sleeps, and poops. And apparently that's all he's supposed to do at this time. So, but he does all of them very well. He's just the biggest, sweetest cuddler. We all are just in love.
Oliver's mommy, your daughter Haley, you said, quote, "You make me laugh daily and cry regularly. I love you with all my heart. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. You're an amazing daughter, sister, wife, and aunt to our sweet girls. I hope your day is full of laughs, wine, and pasta. Happy birthday, Haley," unquote. Tell us a little bit about Haley and her husband, Patrick.
Haley is, she's an amazing mommy. She's doing so well at that role. She's a fantastic daughter. She's my best friend. She's one that I will call and talk and vent and do whatever, and she does the same. She is the vice president of operations for Pettigrew Adventures, Morgan Pettigrew, Pettigrew Law Firm. It's kind of a all-in-one thing, and she runs their office. And she is her mother. She's super type A, organized. She's the best. She is. She's married to Patrick. Patrick loves to think he's funny. Occasionally he'll say something funny, but he's always trying. Patrick works for FedEx, and he's also in the military. And Haley, when he and Haley started dating, shortly after, probably a year after they started dating, he got deployed. And I was like, okay, this is it. We're done now. And they hung on through that. It was a year-long deployment, and he got back, and he said, "I think I'm going to ask Haley to marry me." And I'm like, okay, this is it. We're going to do this. So I couldn't ask for a better partner for my daughter there. And he's got the best dad jokes there are.
That's great. Your son, Dane, I had the pleasure of having him on my podcast, a few months ago. He's sharp, he's funny, he's charismatic. He told me that you're incredibly selfless with your kids and that you've always given of yourself for the benefit of them. Back on August 16th, you said, quote, "Happy birthday to my amazing son, Dane. I'm so proud of the father you are to Georgia, Kate, and Scarlett, and the grind that you do every single day. I love you and hope your day is the most amazing day ever," unquote. He's also involved in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and he raises money, every year for breast cancer research to help find a cure. I'm sure from the type of guy that the interactions I've had with him, I mean, to me, you probably just never had any doubt that he was going to become successful and be such a great dad.
100%. Dane is, nothing embarrasses him. He will do whatever it takes. Scarlett Marie is constantly saying, "My daddy is the silliest," all the time. And Georgia Kate will say he's hilarious. Those are, when you ask them to describe their dad, that's how they describe him. He is just an amazing person, just all around great person. I couldn't ask for a better son. He gets the job done when he needs to, but he also likes to play and have fun.
That's great too. Your mom, Irene, said of you, quote, "I've been so proud of what you've done in your life. You have raised two amazing children in Dane Williams and Haley McIntyre all by yourself, putting them through college and marriage. I know you're an amazing Nana to Georgia Kate and Scarlett and baby Oliver. You helped turn a part of Memphis I saw last year that I thought needed a bulldozer into a venue that is up for Memphis most of the year. I'm so proud of you, Mom," unquote. Really heartfelt, kind words from your mom that she spoke of you. I know that really has to make you feel good that she feels that way.
Absolutely. My mom and I are close. My mom lives in Georgia. She had lived here until about 8-9 years ago. And she now lives down in South Georgia. My brother and my sister are down there, and she lives down there, and she's thriving. She loves her church down there, and she's very active in that. And she's a great person. She really is. We've always been close. There's not a day goes by that I don't call my mom just to say hey. And if I don't call her, she'll remind me the next day that I didn't call her yesterday and why didn't I? But we always check in with her and just see how things are going.
What are the most important lessons that you've learned in life?
Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't sweat the small stuff. Think They're just things. Things will pass. Surround yourself with people who love you. A former boss of mine, one of his favorite things to say is that he likes to surround himself with people that are smarter than he is. And I feel like I do that. I learn from people around me every day. I don't take myself too seriously. I just don't, I'm okay with being wrong. I'm wrong probably more than I'm right. Now let's fix it and make it right.
You're such a great example, once again, of how super important, and I can't stress that enough, of getting, once you checked yourself out, to getting in a mammogram sooner rather than later. It saved your life. And look at all these amazing memories that you have with your kids and your grandkids that, had you not checked yourself out and gone in at the time that you did, you probably wouldn't be here today. And you have so many more great memories and moments to come at the, with your family at the Kent. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your story. It's been great to hear.
Great. Thank you. Yes. Early detection is key. It saves a lot of lives. Thankfully, I was one of them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Toni.
Thank you.
You take care.
You too.